Good morning and welcome to a brand new episode of Breakfast Central. Thank you for joining us. As usual, for the next 2 hours, we're looking at some of the biggest stories around the country, some of the stories we've been following, and maybe some new stories. But as usual, you can also keep up with us on social media at News Central TV, where we're streaming live on X, YouTube, and other platforms as well. I am Olive Emodi.
And I am Osaogi Ogbawan. Great to be here. And of course, thank you for joining us on a Tuesday morning. Just like Olive has mentioned, we're going to be following up on stories that we have already touched on, and of course, as they develop, we'll bring you further updates on those stories, and of course, new conversations that are happening across the country. But one thing, that has, of course, continued to be a conversation across the country is the FCT Minister, Nyesom Wike, and his approach towards, political rivals, his approach towards the current governor of Rivers State, where he was the former governor, amongst other things. If you remember, we've constantly had conversations with representatives of the People's Democratic Party, and we've asked them the question, if Nyesom Wike is above the law with the PDP, their plan to sanction him as a PDP member, and somehow, some way, they always have one reason or the other why it's not necessary, to sanction him, or some of all of that. But what it seems like, and I want to, always say that it's not, nobody needs to force the PDP to take actions that it doesn't want to take. It's a political party that understands its own workings and the way that it should function and in which it handles its affairs. But what we seem to have happening is that every time that the PDP spokespeople defend their reasons for not taking action against Nyesom Wike, for, of course, his betrayal against the party in 2023 election and other things, and of course, the way that he's been holding the, the jugular of Sim Fubara. 2 seconds after they defend it, Nyesom Wike, of course, goes ahead, the minister of the FCT goes ahead to, somehow, some way embarrass them by seemingly committing more atrocities against the PDP and its party. And I'm, of course, referring to the "I will put fire in your states," statement that he made.
When I saw the video of him saying he'll put fire to the governor's states, for a minute I was confused. I thought Adele had joined the People Democratic Party, but it's great to realize that Adele is still...
Not with that voice.
I think she's done with her tour.
Not with that voice.
No, right. But I've seen some breaking news on this day newspaper that the PDP has summoned Nyesom Wike to the disciplinary council. I cannot confirm this. I'm sure that in the next few hours we'll get a clearer picture of what the true position is. But yes, it's very important that the PDP actually ask themselves the question if the party is subject to Nyesom Wike, or if Nyesom Wike is subject to the party. A person who has emerged from a particular political party, working with another political party. We saw the influence that Nyesom Wike had when his party's presidential candidate was running for office, and the way that it was run in Rivers State, how it felt like there was some clamping down on the activities of the People's Democratic Party in Rivers State. He's speaking about his structure, but if you recall, during the elections, PDP didn't seem to have a free hand in Rivers State. It did seem like he wanted to establish himself as Emperor and Lord Supreme in Rivers State. And fair enough, he was the governor at the time. Now he's no longer governor. What a number of people expected is that he step aside and allow the governor that is there to actually work. Citizens have thrown their weight behind Siminalayi Fubara. I think what is more ridiculous isn't just Nyesom Wike saying that he will set fire to the states of the people who are trying to quote unquote disrupt the structure. But it's all the people there, the people's parents that were clapping and singing, saying them, they fear you, Wike them, they fear you. I just thought, really, I don't understand. I mean, is this really a joke?
There's nothing strange with, psychophancy. All right,
it's ridiculous.
It
is ridiculous because I do think that as we are grown enough to be able to make some very, very informed choices, and one of the most informed choices that one can make right now is to ensure that, if we see something that is wrong, you call it out quite blankly, or call it out quite blatantly.
So again, I get your point. But there's nothing entirely strange with political psychophancy. And it's not necessarily because they don't see anything wrong with what the person is saying. but they are diehard supporters of that person and his ideology, for different reasons best known to them. That's where psychopathy comes from. It could be because of financial reasons. It could be because they truly believe in this person's ideology. It could be because they don't have any other, nowhere else to go, and so they are fully in support of this person. Or maybe because, they've gotten favors from, that person, in the past, and they've just, sworn to always be loyal to him. So there's not, for me, I don't see anything strange with it.
I just think that it's
it's not like it is not wrong. I'm just saying that it's not strange to see those people. In every part of the world, when there's a popular politician, there would be sycophants, regardless of what that person's beliefs are. There will be sycophants. There's nothing strange. It's slightly difficult to stomach when you see the faces of these people who are being sycophants, and you say, you should know better. But everybody has their own, everybody has their own right to understand politics the way that they choose. I've also struggled with hearing people defend Nyesom Wike's statements, the Honorable Minister of the FCT, and his statement saying he will set fire to the estate. We had someone yesterday defending it, creating new narratives with which to make it sound less threatening than it was, and he went through different directions, but always, trying to make it seem like, there was nothing strange there. And of course, there's nothing wrong with a person trying to, to protect their political structure, in the states that they're from, which I find, for me, is also really, really, sickening. That what we're allowing to happen here is not because a person is doing the best that he can for the lives of the people of Rivers State, but he's protecting his own personal interests. And everybody knows, nobody is even arguing that it is his own personal political interest that he's protecting. And he doesn't mind jeopardizing the progress of the millions of people in Rivers State.
Again, it reminds
for
us,
his own personal and political interest.
Again,
and we all can see it.
Yeah.
Right? And there are people who still find reasons to defend it. Like, there's nothing wrong with that.
Like the sycophants that are singing along with him and celebrating him, and all the politicians who think that, when we had someone who, I think it was Dr. Olatokunbo Pierce, who said that you can't throw away the baby and the bathwater. The PDP is figuring out their way around this. Regardless of what the PDP's drama and challenges are, I don't care. I'm not a part of the party. What my issue is with the way that he's carried on and with the statements that he made yesterday. Those statements are rather unsettling. And, it then reflects again the mindset and the ideology of a number of Nigerian politicians, not just Nyesom Wike. It's more about personal interest, ability to protect what they refer to as structure. Oftentimes I've asked, what exactly is this political structure? I don't really see the picture. I don't seem to understand what exactly the political structure Nyesom Wike is trying to protect in Rivers State. So at the end of the day, there is a commander-in-chief of that state. He should be the one in charge of making decisions for the state. If there's any structure that needs to be protected, if at all we want to start saying we're protecting structures, I will think that it is the governor of the state that should be in charge of protecting whatever structure abounds in the state. But if you as an outsider comes to disrupt the government of the day, then are you really a friend of the state?
Yeah, but I think the understanding is that the governor himself was meant to be a part of that structure. The governor is simply just not, from the way it seems, not acting in the way that the role he was meant to play as part of that
because
structure.
Politics is a politics of Nigeria's politics, maybe not just Nigeria, but the politics that we run is politics of agreements, and they don't like to use that word, but godfatherism, where, I brought you into office, so because I brought you into office,
so you must
my interest. Protect my interest, you must do things the way that I want, which is why we find that a number of people then come into office and are not bold enough to call their predecessors out. We just keep hearing, I met a lot of debt, I did this. Call them out, let them come and answer questions as to how they ran, government before you came into office. And
that is, similarly the structure that we're talking about, similarly protecting that person's interest, keeping, all, their political sons and daughters, in positions that they have created for them, and, if you're not trying to do that, then it means that you are going against the structure that this person has, because there's nothing, River State hasn't necessarily benefited from a structure, a political structure. It should be benefiting from governance, right? Not because the politician has structure in the state that is benefiting the people of River State. But anyway, again, like I said when we started, it's not left for anybody to tell the PDP how to react or how to handle its own internal party affairs. We are only just reacting to, these things as they occur across the country and sharing the reactions mostly that many Nigerians have with the drama, involving the Honorable Minister of the FCT, Nyesom Wike, and the Governor of River State, Simfar. We begin breakfast headlines in Nigeria, where the Nigerian police force has declared several persons wanted for acts of terrorism and attempts of trying to overthrow Nigeria's government. The force public relations officer, Olumuyiwa Adejobi, while making this known in Abuja, says that two of those declared wanted, include a British national, Andrew Wynne, whose office was invaded at the Labour House, and one Lucky Obion, wanted for suspected acts of terrorism.
He mobilized and deployed several billions of naira to his Nigerian collaborators, urging them to mobilize the public to violently storm police facilities and military barracks, anticipating a bloodbath. Since the commencement of investigations, Andrew Wynne has fled the country. He and one of his local coordinators, one Lucky Obinya, have accordingly been declared wanted, and global hunting for them has commenced in connection with this investigation. The 10 other suspects already apprehended have been arraigned before a competent court of law today, Monday, September 2, 2024.
Meanwhile, one of those mentioned, Andrew Wynne, reacting, said the government was unsettled by the End Bad Governance protests held across the country. Wynne expressed regret that the government has been suppressing the protesters instead of responding to the citizens' demands. And now to politics. The People's Democratic Party has announced that Nyesom Wike, the Minister of the Federal Capital Territory, will face a disciplinary committee over alleged anti-party activities. PDP's Deputy National Publicity Secretary Ibrahim Abdullahi said Wike has been summoned to appear before the disciplinary committee led by Tom Ikimi, which was established by the party's National Working Committee in August to address misconduct, uphold party discipline, and ensure accountability. Still talking politics, in the meantime, the People's Democratic Party in Edo State has accused the All Progressive Congress of planning a mass arrest of party faithful in the state ahead of the upcoming Edo State governorship elections. The PDP Youth Alliance for Good Governance, while speaking to Newsbend in Abuja, says the APC is allegedly using state mercenaries to arrest its members in the state, as some have already been arrested by the police and are being unjustly detained. And now, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has appointed a new board for the Bank of Industry Limited, signaling a fresh start for the nation's premier development finance institution. This was contained in a statement on Monday by the special advisor to the president on media and publicity, Ajurin Galale. Dr. Mansur Mukhtar, a veteran finance expert and former Minister of Finance, will chair the 13-member board, which includes seasoned professionals from various fields. Hajia Dada, the mother of former President of Nigeria, late Umaru Musa Yar'adua, is dead. She reportedly died at the Federal Teaching Hospital, Katsina, on Monday evening after a brief illness. Dada was also the mother of late Shehu Musa Yar'adua and Senator Abdulaziz Musa Yar'adua, the current chairman, Senate Committee on Army. Also in the news, authorities in the Democratic Republic of Congo have announced that investigations are underway following an attempted jailbreak from the country's largest prison, Makala, in the capital city of Kinshasa. Government spokesman Patrick Muyaya said in the statement that security forces are on site to restore order and secure the facility.
Ça c'est bandit depuis 1h du matin, 5h. Dans 5h là, na 3h on a examen qui kobomana qui ba bois ka ba grenade donc ba bou. Policier retard ya kaka ba mbilo prison de
And that's all on Breakfast Headlines. Now we head back to Breakfast Central and get into our top stories. I am Osaogi Ogbawa.
Angel Innocent, a pregnant mother of 3, who is among the detainees currently on trial for treason following her participation at the recent End Bad Governance protest, has been remanded at the Suleja Correctional Facility in Niger State, north-central Nigeria. Other detainees, including Michael Adaramoye, popularly called Michael Lenin, and 8 others, were also remanded in the Kuje Medium Custodial Center in the Federal Capital Territory, Abuja. News Central's Emmanuel Bagudu reports.
The protesters were arraigned on a 6-count charge bordering on alleged treason, mutiny, and inciting Nigerians against the federal government. The defendants in the suit marked FHC/ABJ/CS/254/2024 are Michael Tobiloba Aderamoye, aka Lenin, Adeyemi Abiodun Abayomi, Suleiman Yakubu, Comrade Apalua, Eliojo, Angel Love Innocent, Buhari Lawal, Mosiu Sodiq, Bashir Bello Nuruddin, and Abdul Dalam Zubair. After pleading not guilty, their counsels urged the court to admit the defendants to bail, since there's no evidence of treason, felony, and mutiny against their client. This, however, was objected by the counsel to the Nigerian police force.
It's not an issue of protest. It's an issue of inciting mutiny. Mutiny means trying to change government by force, not by constitutional means. So that is the inciting disaffection to the government. So where a person, incite other people, to riot, in order to change the system by force, is what we call mutiny. And in our laws, it is treason.
The defense counsel say that they are happy their clients have been arraigned according to the laid down laws and not illegally detained.
We've moved their bail application, which has been adjourned to the 11th of September 2024. We'll be back here on that day for their bail, hopefully, by God's grace, and for the police to come forth and prove their case. But there is nothing in the body of evidence, in the body of proof before the court to show that these guys have done anything aside protesting and demanding for social justice and an equitable government.
We are happy that finally protesters have been charged. Unfortunately, instead of charging them for protest, the Tinubu government has charged them for terrorism. What an irony of some sort. When Bello, Tuje, and other terrorists and bandits are on TikTok having fun and abducting people.
Also, the counsel to Angel Innocent, the 5th defendant, pleaded for a lighter remand order for his client, claiming that she is currently pregnant and will require medical attention. The trial judge ordered that she be remanded at the Suleja Correctional Facility in Niger State, instead of joining others at the Kuje Medium Correctional Facility located in the federal capital.
We moved their bail application, and this is the only thing that we would do. And we have moved their bail application, and also the court has already adjourned the matter to 11 of this month for ruling.
After spending days under police custody, 10 out of the 124 accused protesters have finally been arraigned before the court. The case continues on the 11th of September this year, where the trial judge promised to deliver a ruling on their bail applications. In Abuja, for News Central, I am Emmanuel Bagudu.
And of course, that's a story that we will continue to follow and see where it leads with these protesters having their day in court with the federal government. But moving on, the Minister of State for Petroleum, Senator Heineken Lokbobiri, has suggested that the Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation, NNPC Limited, should sell imported fuel above landing cost to combat smuggling. He made the statement at the 2024 Energy and Labor Summit in Abuja, where he also criticized security agencies for their complicity in smuggling activities.
He also noted that the Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited, NNPC, lacks the funds necessary to rebuild the nation's aging pipelines, which contributes to be the problem. This comes after the oil company admitted to owing international oil traders a major factor in the ongoing nationwide fuel scarcity. Joining us is Professor Emeritus in Petroleum Economics, Wumi Iledari. Good morning. Thank you for joining us, Prof.
Good morning. Thank you for inviting me.
All right. There are several reasons why the NNPC, or several reasons that have been given why the NNPC cannot function in its capacity. One, they've talked about, Heineken Lokobiri has talked about the inability for them to have funds to work on the pipelines, the age-long pipelines. Femi Falana yesterday argued that the federal government was ridiculing itself by suggesting that it cannot, halt the illegal smuggling of petroleum products across the borders. So there have been several reasons given why the NNPC is failing to live up to the expectation placed on it. What are your thoughts?
Well, again, thank you. My opinion, I don't represent any institutions. Yes, I think NNPC needs to look back. There's an adage that says to be forewarned is to be forearmed. It's not that they're not aware that what they've been doing over the years are not sustainable. What they were told that they were riding upon the tiger, and when the tiger comes down, it's going to consume everybody. And that's exactly what you see going on. There was no way they would have sustained subsidy. Secondly, the way out of NNPC current dilemma is easy. PIA institutions, the PIA Act of 2021 gives them a cover. But it just appeared to me that they need to begin to let go of their old agency role to the government. They have allowed political schemes to undermine their professionalism. And that's some of the biggest challenge that you have. NNPC is capable to be like Saudi Aramco. I can vouch for them. But manpower deployment is their number one issue. So in my opinion, if they begin to allow the PI institution to guide them, they will be successful.
Yeah, I mean, you just mentioned allowing politics, come in the way of their professionalism. This obviously has been a problem for decades, maybe even since, the 60s. But what would you suggest should be the path forward? We currently now have conversations about privatizing the Warri and Kaduna refineries. We currently are waiting for the Dangote refinery. The Port Harcourt refinery itself is, has had its, production time postponed multiple times. What would you suggest should be the pathway going forward? If you were to advise Mr. President on handling the NNPC maybe into the coming year?
Well, I think it's easy. First, let the federal government take their hand off NNPC. Let the federal government stop spending money outside the budgetary means by depending on NNPC. Let the federal government stop looking at NNPC as their cash cow. That's the first thing. Second thing, let the federal government allow the board of directors of NNPC, either competent or incompetent, to make decisions about where NNPC ought to go. Take politics out of NNPC. Let the idea of entitlement of Nigerians because of NNPC be taken out of the sphere. Let's have public education. Look at the profit declared by Saudi Aramco. There's nothing that stops Nigeria from being able to do that with 37 billion barrels of oil, of which 60% of them is under NNPC cover. So if you just take politics and let governance be guided by principles of the Petroleum Industry Act, of course, I have NNPC to blame, honestly speaking. They have succumbed themselves to political manipulations. They've allowed transactionalism to let them do things they should not be doing. Now they are crown foul. How would they be able to have money to do what they are supposed to do when they have been funding government, constructing roads, doing things that are not part and parcel of the PIA responsibility as defined to them? I look at this as just crime foul when they know that what they were doing from day one is not what PIA asked them to do. Let them follow the PIA institutions. You cannot have a law and break it. You can't. It's criminality to not obey the law of the land and expect something to be different. I'm sorry, I'm being blunt. Again, let professionals understand that tomorrow is more important than today, when you have a responsibility to develop a nation and a sector that will guide the economy of the nation. You cannot compromise. You cannot be spending money on behalf of the government outside what the PIA has prescribed. The solution is for the government to let go of political manipulation of NNPC and let NNPC deliver what it is established to deliver. Otherwise, there will be no need to change the name from NNPC to NNPC Limited if you want them to continue to do what they were doing. To me, the PIA offers NNPC the cover. And if the president will not let you do what you are supposed to do professionally, give him your letter of resignation so that the nation can be saved. Nigeria needs NNPC.
I just need to clarify.
Austerity.
Just to clarify, Prof, who do you say, if they cannot meet up, should drop a letter of resignation?
Oh, all of them. If somebody appoints me, I've done it before. When the vice chancellor was trying to influence my decision, I resigned. Let people begin to put their integrity online. You will survive.
So, and I ask this because we started to see calls that the group CEO of the NNPC, Mele Kyari, he should step down. We've been seeing people who have been asking him to resign. And I don't know if that call is ill-timed. Do you think that this is a right call?
No, it's nobody's call. It's nobody's call for him to go. He has a term appointment. But what I'm saying is that if he's not being able to allow to do his job, calling him to resign is not going to be the solution. He doesn't have to resign. But nobody has the right to call him to resign. You might as well tell all the university vice chancellors to resign because they are not delivering. No, he has a term.
Oh, well,
and we need to continue to obey the law.
Yeah, it's maybe just, Nigerians expressing their frustration and asking, and that's why, you might hear these suggestions every now and then. But let's also talk about, the realities that we're currently facing. Petrol stations are currently selling petrol between 900, some of them up to 1,500. We've even heard about 2,000 naira per liter. Would you say that this currently should be the reality of the average Nigerian, to buy petrol for at least 1,000 naira, because the NNPC, and of course the Nigerian government has not been able to manage the situation well enough, concerning the removal of petrol subsidy?
Listen, just look around you. Look at Mali. Look at Niger Republic. Look at Ghana. Look at Senegal. Look at Ivory Coast. Look at all the West African countries. Tell me any country that is buying a liter of PMS at less than 1,000 naira. Why do you think your own be different? Yes, of course, I understand demand and supply is different structurally, and perhaps the economic structure is different. But there's no way in which you do not produce gasoline, you do not produce diesel, and then you are importing it, and you expect somebody to pay for it lower than the landing cost. This thing have been. Listen, if you go all over the place, you will see my opinion on this. Since 2012, if we had done this in 2012, we would not be where we are. And again, you cannot disobey the principles of economics and think it will not come after you. The law of demand and the law of supply, they are laws. They are theories that have been proven. When quantity demanded is to be affected by the price of commodity, they are indirectly related. So when you charge petroleum product at a lower cost than the clearing price, you are going to have excess demand, and there's going to be shortage, and then there will be black market. So there are certain principles that are written that you cannot do anything by it. More so if the non-price factor is not even favoring you, the price is going to go up. Yes, the dominant firm made a mistake in 2023 by setting the price at 500. That should not have been the case. That is what you are paying for now. Unfortunately, people don't listen to advice. Again, I'm reminded, a dog that will get lost will not listen to the whistle of the owner.
So you're saying in 2023...
have been warned over the years about this.
Yeah, but how do you think we could have managed it? If in 2023, right after Mr. President said subsidy is gone, we immediately then see petrol move from just about 200 naira to 1,500 naira per liter. Would that have been a manageable situation?
No, they should have done what I call price modulation. They shouldn't have. You created shock in the economy, and the economy has not recovered from it. You did not do what you were supposed to do on time. In fact, there was a time I suggested to NNPC and through public media. I don't advise them, even though I've taught for them for many years. Listen, if you want to satisfy your responsibility, you can allow anybody to bring petroleum product here, and they can sell it at the market clearing price. Then you can be selling your petrol stations. Before you know it, the market will balance. But you can't take ownership and be the sole importer of petroleum product, and then you are not going to realize you are behaving like a monopoly. And the Petroleum Authority should not allow you to do that. Again, I'm hearing now a rumor that is suggesting that NNPC wants to be a monopoly buyer, a single buyer of Dangote petroleum product. That is anti-competitive. And that's not what the law expects you to do. What I will advise the NNPC management is to do what is professionally right. Take political expediency out of your decision making, and let the nation understand that you are not a cash cow to them. You cannot continue to. In fact, if I'm advising the GMPC, I won't talk to the press. That's why you have a GGM for public communication. Did you ever hear Shell MD talk to the press? Did you ever hear Total speak to the press? When they want to speak, the best is for National Assembly to call them. That's going to be my advice to GMPC. That's why they throw him all of this more that they are throwing at him to resign. No, it's not anybody's responsibility. Let NNPC be NNPC. Let NNPC be like every other national company of the nation. Don't begin to manage NNPC through the press. You are never going to please a nation that is full of entitlement. 1,000 naira is still a giveaway per liter.
So,
because the landing cost is more than 1,000 naira.
So, are you saying that Nigerians don't deserve an explanation, especially because the NNPC is right now in charge of ensuring that fuel is available to Nigerians, and we've been experiencing a really terrible scarcity for the past, say, 2 months, which is looking to last longer because of the recent announcement of the financial strain, which they had initially denied. So are we saying that Nigerians cannot ask NNPC questions and that they should not answer to Nigerians explaining why there is fuel scarcity and why Nigerians have to pay this much?
Well, you might as well say that Total should be answering to Nigeria because they sell petrol. Shell should be answering to Nigeria. Again, that's why you have a Minister of Petroleum Resources in Nigeria. The question of availability is a policy issue. That's why if you look at the PIA, we have a policy institution, which is the Minister of Petroleum. We have a commercial institution, which is NNPC. And then we have regulatory institutions, which is the Petroleum Authority and the Petroleum Commission. If anybody should talk to Nigeria about the shortages of petrol or the price of petrol, it should be Petroleum Authority, not NNPC. NNPC made a mistake by invoking one small responsibility, energy supply of last resort. In the PIA, that is just a tiny responsibility. That's why the public is blaming them. It's just like the whole world blames OPEC when the price of oil is up. The United States blame OPEC when the price of oil is down. Have you ever seen OPEC tries to justify what they do to the public? No. Nigeria, they're just putting too many blames on the NNPC instead of blaming the people that are responsible for policies that are making the life of Nigerians difficult.
Yeah,
NNPC
to be
man
clear,
or woman is not elected. It's not elected. The NNPC does not respond to Nigeria. They respond to the shareholders. And the shareholders is the federation, not even the federal government. Go and read the law.
Yeah, I mean, but that would be in a situation where, you know, I mean, initially we spoke about politicizing the NNPC. So maybe that would be in a situation where we had a federal government representative that truly was able to raise the right questions for the NNPC to answer. But if we don't see that happening, then of course you would expect that Nigerians will be asking these questions by themselves. If the NNPC, of course, currently is the sole importer of petrol, and petrol is not available to Nigerians There's been lack of clarity as to whether the NNPC was owing, $6 billion or not owing $6 billion. There's just too many questions to be answered. Initially, they said it was a logistics problem, between shipping. And then they're saying, a couple of weeks later that it is because of financial problems that they have. And so these are questions that should be answered, because Nigerians are currently going through a really, really tough time to buy petrol, even if it is the most expensive petrol that they've ever had to purchase. So somebody must ask questions. And if the government is not asking questions, then of course you would expect that there would be questions being raised by Nigerians. Quickly speak on that, if you can, and then also talk about the Warri and Kaduna refinery that they, have spoken about privatizing.
Well, first, I'm not defending NNPC. I'm not their spokesperson. I'm just looking at things broadly.
No, I understand that.
What I'm trying to say is that, yes, I'm a professor of what ought to be. I have to look at all the side of the coins. Let's look at what's the responsibility of the National Assembly. Is the National Assembly can call anybody to come and testify in their committee if they think that something is wrong. The people that the Nigerian people should be calling to action is the National Assembly. It's the National Assembly because they are the representative of the people. And it's the National Assembly that's supposed to call those that are in charge of whatever it is that is affecting the public to come and answer questions to them. And then the press will be there. Okay. And I'm sure this is no-go area. And forgive me, I told you, can the National Assembly summon the President of Nigeria to come to the National Assembly and talk to them about what's going on in the petroleum sector? Is he not the designated Minister of Petroleum Resources? But can they call him? Well, they should be able to call the Minister of Petroleum to come. They should be able to call all of the people, including Dangote himself, to the National Assembly. Anybody that is doing anything who has a license to operate in Nigeria and what they are doing is affecting Nigeria, they should be able to summon them. So, but is the National Assembly up to the task? Do they even have anybody advising them on sectoral issue beyond just having for their own capacity building? Do they have competent staff for each of the sector of the economy that is studying and advising them? Listen, don't blame NNPC alone. You cannot expect a saint in a saintless society.
Okay, let's now talk about, before you head over to the question about Warri Kaduna refineries to be privatized, the person who has these answers, if the NNPC is not to be blamed, you talked about the country having a Minister of Petroleum. What role does the Minister of Petroleum play in all of this? That's of course the president.
Well, the Minister of Petroleum is the one in charge of the policy institution. NNPC is not in charge of policy institution. NNPC is not in charge of regulatory institutions.
So the
Minister of Petroleum coordinates the activity. And who is the Minister of Petroleum in Nigeria?
President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. President Bola Ahmed Tinubu.
Where was he confirmed by the Senate?
Well, that has been the way that it's been run for the past few years. We saw that part of the reason why they did that.
In a way, no, my friend, the fact that you've been doing something that is unconstitutional does not mean you should continue like that.
Well, Prof, the thing is, we're pointing out these things to help. I'm sure you understand already, and I know that
that's why I'm pointing out the solutions to you.
Yes, I totally understand that. I'm just, what we're pointing out here is kind of, the dysfunction in the society and in the realities that we live in, and the reason that Nigerians will continue to be focused on the NNPC. Because we do not have a Minister of Petroleum that is answerable or that has shown himself to be answerable to the Nigerian people. Neither do we have a National Assembly that is, willing to ask these questions. That's the reason Nigerians would continue to say the NNPC should be blamed. I'm sure that you understand where those sentiments are coming from. It's not because...
Well, I don't base my judgment on sentiments.
No, absolutely, and that's fine.
No, you can't live on the basis of sentiment. You need to address the main issue. And believe you me, this is not something Nigeria cannot do. But calling the head of the NNPC will not solve the problem. You are just going to be transferring the problem from one place to the other. Let NNPC function as a professional commercial as mandated by the PIA. Well, I can read you the objective of the PIA. He said the law creates a functioning commercial-oriented institution built on profit-making, not on revenue generation. Go and read it, objective number 2 or number 3 of the PIA. But for 3 years, you never allow PIA to function the way it was intended. And NMPC too is to be blamed because they are operating on the basis of the letter of the law instead of the intent of the law.
And I hear you,
I
Prof.
understand.
But I want us to just quickly highlight again what role, because until we have a different Minister of Petroleum that has been, screened by the National Assembly and sworn in, the current Minister of Petroleum that we have is the President. So what role does President Bola Ahmed Tinubu have to play in all of this?
Well, I'm not sure he calls himself Minister of Petroleum. I don't think I've ever heard him introduce himself as the Minister of Petroleum, but that's by design, because he knows the law. That's by design. What's his name? Rufai today is not a Minister of Petroleum. I mean, Minister of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Not that he was not nominated. He was duly nominated by the President of Nigeria. But the Senate did not give their consent. And that's why it's not a minister. The Constitution requires a consent of the Senate to become the Minister of Petroleum in the Federal Republic of Nigeria. But that's by design. Let's answer your question. What's the function of the Minister of Petroleum? It's well stated. Is the owner and the director of the direction of the oil and gas sector in Nigeria. That's his responsibility. In fact, if you look at the PIA, it says the minister. That's what it says. And he's supposed to coordinate both the policy, the regulatory, and the commercial. He owns the sector. He reports everything about the sector to the federal executive. What he's going to do, what ought to be done, is the one that sets the policy agenda from which regulation is conducted, from which NMPC derive the direction they are going in the management. And the operational procedure for NMPC is not from the Federal Executive Council, mind you, according to the law. It's from the Board of Directors. But then when you have a Board of Directors that perhaps maybe institutional capture is more important, then it becomes difficult to give them the type of direction for the management of NMPC to be able to function operationally efficiently, financially rewarding, and at the same time minimize the cost of production of oil and Nigeria, because they are joint venture partner of about 57 to 58%. So the minister requires 24 hours attention, just like what they are doing, what the CBN man is doing, and the Minister of Finance is doing, to be able to curb inflation, cost of capital, and declining GDP. But when you don't have somebody in charge of a sector that is the engine that's supposed to propel Nigeria from where it is, then you can't blame NMPC. Please,
yeah,
somebody's not giving them the type of direction they should follow.
Well, until we
I'm
have
not here to defend NMPC because I know they have their own inefficiencies and ineffectiveness and unethical and inequity. But you can't blame NMPC for the plight of bad policy that you have in place over the last 8
until we
years.
have a minister that understands and owns up to his responsibilities, these conversations would continue. And of course, the NMPC's name, I guess, would always be called. But Prof, I want you to speak quickly on the conversations concerning the privatization of the Warri and Kaduna refineries. Mostly also because we've seen the struggle with the Port Harcourt refinery that, still has not been able to get itself, to be fully functional. Do you agree that both should be privatized, and maybe all of them?
Well, listen, I'm a consistent man. I believe in vertical integration, especially at the level of our development. I believe that you are going to be taking off an asset that belongs to NMPC and giving it to a private sector. That's what the major challenge is: manpower deployment, not manpower development. By the time you give it to private sectors, who's going to be operating it? Are they not going to be Nigerians? Who is operating the petrochemical in River State today? Are they not Nigerians? So that means the biggest challenge is management. And the reason why you have management deficiency is deployment of competent workforce. So I want to be consistent. I believe in vertical integration.
All right.
Even if NNPC is going to get a private operator to operate it, I believe that NNPC can still have a bigger share. Look at LLNG. Who are the people operating LLNG today? Are they not Nigerians?
All right.
Is LLNG not delivering? So please,
All right,
I don't understand. I don't understand why we just want to make millionaires out of some of the things we do, giving government assets that are producing wealth to an individual that will be spending bulk of the money, living a lifestyle that is not in any way adding any value to Nigeria.
Prof.
I
Ledari.
wish that we have what I call a joint venture partner with some of these refinery operators.
We of course, we would see how, the what agreements that they come with, with regards to the sale. But I mean, only time will tell. Professor Wumi Ledari, thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Well, again, thank you for the engagement. Anytime, mine is to educate the public on the right thing, irrespective of the consequences to me as a person.
Thank you very much,
Nigeria is a promised nation. We must not let it disintegrate because of bad management.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for your time with us, Prof.
The conversation continues.
All right. We look forward to having you join us again. We'll now move on to our next conversation. The Joint Committee on Electoral Matters has proposed a 30% salary cut for legislators and a 40% cut for executive members to reduce costs. This recommendation is part of the committee's review of the National Assembly's approach to the Electoral Act 2022, aiming to address cost concerns and streamline government operations. The session also saw discussions on how to enhance the efficiency and cost effectiveness of elections in Nigeria.
Now, political parties proposed during the sessions that all elections, presidential, National Assembly, governorship, and State House of Assembly be conducted in a day, arguing that the current system is not cost-effective. Political parties also suggested that continuous voter registration process is linked with the National Identity Number, NIN, amongst other proposals. Joining us is the Chairman, African Democratic Party, George Ashiru. Good morning. Thanks for joining us.
Good morning. My brother, my sister, thank you very much.
Thanks for joining us. I mean, with the time that we have, let's quickly start with the whole recommendation on 30% and 40%, salary cost for House of Assembly members, legislative and executives. Is this necessary? And, there's people who would argue that we're focusing on the wrong things. Whatever they earn is too little to really add anything to Nigeria's, general economy. So there's no need focusing on all of that. Do you agree with that?
Yes, I partially agree with it. The actual salaries of senators are just about $1 million. That's not extraordinary. After all, soldiers from Brigadier General earn just as much, professors earn that much. So senators who are in charge of Nigeria's legislative processes should earn good living wages. That then means that everybody else should earn good living wages. Our real concern should be that in the private sector, when you pay people well, you see the performance. You have great expectations and you see the evidence of it thereof. I think so. Our major problem is performance management. The senators collect whatever the collectors running costs, a total of about 20 to 21 million on a monthly basis, of which only 1 million is their personal wage. All of the rest is meant to be dividends of democracy, going out there, running their policy departments and the various staff in the offices. But what are they generated in terms of value to the electorate? That is really where the issue is. So when you pay the bank MD 10 million naira a month, 20 million, 40, 50 million, it generates a profit of about 5, 10 billion. He has shown you why you're paying that much, that he can deliver value. So what we are saying is this: what people are paid is not critical as much as what they're delivering. But what is the National Assembly delivering to Nigeria? That is really the big question. And if you're delivering the profits that we expected in the investment we made in democracy, then we can pay them very well. Until they do so, those running costs need to be halved. It's not the salaries that matter, it's the running costs that need to be halved. That's where I stand on that.
All right. I'm glad that you highlighted that, because I'd wanted to ask you, there are those who say it's not just about the salary, it's the allowances in general. But let's talk about consolidating all elections into a single day to reduce costs. With the kind of system that we run, are we able to achieve the consolidation of elections? We saw how highly disputed the 2023 elections were and still are. You know, there are many Nigerians who would believe that there were a number of things that went wrong with the 2023 elections. So first of all, is it necessary for us to consolidate the elections? If it is, can we afford to consolidate the elections into one day?
As a matter of fact, it's cheaper to consolidate. You're paying the same polling agents, the same amount of money. You're paying all the ad hoc staff of INEC the same amount of money. Instead of doubling it, you're paying just once. And all that is happening is that the electorate have to stay longer on the queues. They have to stay longer to be able to tab each of the various boxes for all of the various positions. And as long as there's a proper demarcation and proper understanding of that process, there really is a value to having elections in one day. There is a serious value. There should be impact analysis made, of course. The impact analysis will tell us, all the pros and cons of doing it. But in terms of actual cost of election, the cost of election in Nigeria is massive, massive. It will run state budgets in about 4 or 5 states of the poorest states in Nigeria. So you can imagine the saving going into hundreds of billions if we actually do focus on just having all our elections in one day. Like I said, all it takes is just staying longer to tab the various positions from president all the way to the state assembly and councillors. So I think we can do it. I think it's something worth looking at. And definitely we political parties, that's why we support it.
Yeah, absolutely. A lot of people agree with you. Sorry, there.
Yes.
A lot of people would agree with you, and with the points that you've made, and also the fact that we run a very, very expensive process that unfortunately has not been able to justify the reason we're spending 400 billion naira when we still have the many loopholes that occur during the election. So there's a lot of these places here and there that need to be cleaned up if we need to have an electoral process that we can trust. After spending 400 billion naira. The idea of linking voter registration to the NIN, is that also a great idea? Would that also help many more Nigerians to be able to be a part of the electoral process?
Well, think about it. The United States, United Kingdom, and in all these other countries, all the security apparatus of each individual, the biometrics of each individual is encapsulated in the social security number. And once you have a social security number, you can vote. You don't have to have a voter's card. Just put your social security number on the forms, and the system will pull out your data, and then you vote. I do not remember that there are ID cards in the UK when I lived there. I don't think people received specific ID cards to be able to be residents or citizens. Once they got the national insurance numbers, you have this number that allowed you to pay your taxes, allowed you to get social benefits. That number is what you use for almost every transaction, as long as you are registered to vote, being an adult. So I think there is absolutely a necessity to be able to ensure that, number one, we don't have multiple voting. We don't have situations where, because we're trying to have all the votes in one day, that people are running around from one pillar to one post. By using just a simple biometric, the national insurance number, I actually agree with that. And once that is embedded in an international passport, embedded in your voter's card, embedded in everything else that you use to identify yourself, then that really means that for a change, we would have a consolidated capacity to generate data concerning everybody when they vote and if they violate the Voting Act as well. So really, that's another good idea, which I think we should also consider doing. By the way, implementing has always been a problem of Nigeria. It has never been generating good ideas.
Okay, I think as quickly as possible, let's talk about the process of registering or selecting an INEC chairman. Our INEC chairmen have come under controversy. The last one, the one before the last. Let's talk about the process of appointing, or selecting INEC chairman.
I mean, the current process is still at the whims and caprices of the president of the country, then to be approved by the National Assembly. I don't think there's anything fundamentally wrong with it. What's fundamentally problematic is the fact that we don't have options. You don't have 4, 5, 6 people being considered. You just hear one person has been selected and the name has been forwarded. There's no antecedents, there's no competitiveness, there's no sense of why this person is being considered. And I think that's really what we need to do. We need to be able to have a process that tells us who the next INEC chairman is likely to be because of the criteria which we have set. And then once we have all those sort of criteria in place and everybody's able to consider the competencies of all of the individuals concerned, then we pick the best. National Assembly can then get involved. Otherwise, we may put everything to referendum in the future. You know, give us 6 names and the people vote. You know, in the United States, people vote for the attorney general. They vote for the district attorneys. They vote for every critical position because the people want to have direct control over who governs all of their democracy. So I think all of these things are something we should consider. But I don't think right now the key problem is whether or not the president is appointed. The key question is, what is the criteria for selecting? The key question is, what is the criteria for approving? You know, and then why don't we have an open bidding process where several people can put their names forward rather than the president just going to look for whoever he wants to pick from anywhere? Once we have a situation where it's an open bidding process, different people can apply, and we know the criteria and it's open, we already know the people that are qualified, and we can even put names forward. Then the National Assembly, and the National Assembly should be able to reject the president's candidate and suggest somebody else.
All right, George Ashiru, we're out of time for this conversation. Thank you very much for joining us. I understand how important it is because a lot of people are anxious about the next general elections. Many people would like to see, you know, something that at least assures them that it will not be a repeat of 2023. So we'd like to have you join us again pretty soon. And of course, next time we will, you know, definitely be asking you about Funsho Tahirti, leaving the ADC to the PDP, and you know how you feel about it. But thank you for your time this morning, and speak with you soon.
It's my pleasure.
All right.
Welcome back to Breakfast Central. We're joined now by our favorite newspaper analyst, Ikechukwu Amechi, as we review the papers this morning. He's the publisher of the Niche newspaper, and we're very, very happy and excited to see you. You know, I was about to stand and start rendering a special. This in-house joke. Sorry to our audience for not being a part of it, but it's a delight to have you. Thank you very much for joining us.
Well, the pleasure is always mine.
It's always great to have you. Now let's head into the Vanguard newspaper. On the front page of the Vanguard newspaper this morning, anxiety as pump price of petrol raises towards 1,405 per litre. We also have there costing template shows the price at 1,205 per litre. That's the landing price they're talking about. We have here presidency denies alleged frosty relationship between Tinubu and Shatima. I don't regret joining APC, Amechi declares. We can categorically tell you that is not the Amechi in our studio. And we'll continue with that conversation later. Nigerian airlines not delisted from operating to US over safety, says federal government. This is in response to the allegations that we had seen in the media about Nigerian airlines being delisted from the US. And we have 2027 PDP in talks with Kwankwaso. Obi says spokesman. In sports, Team Nigeria win first medal. I think that's all that we can take this morning. Let's head over to our next paper.
All right. The next paper this morning will be the Daily Times, I believe. Yes. Big story there says federal government charges 10 NBAD governance protesters with treason. Court orders defendants to be remanded at Kuje and Suleja prisons. Police declare Britain and a Nigerian wanted for plotting to destabilize Tinubu's government. Wanted Britain, replies police, says I am not a fugitive. Also, more drama as PDP summons Nyesom Wike set to discipline members for anti-party activities. Also on the Daily Time this morning, military utilizing non-kinetic capabilities to achieve operational successes, says CDS. Reps hail Tinubu over 50% electricity subsidy for tertiary institutions and hospitals. Flood claims 200 lives, displaces over 208,000 people in 28 states. And also debt servicing consumes 64% of Nigeria's $4.36 billion foreign payments in the first half of 2024. The First News newspapers come next.
All right, on the front page of the First News newspaper, I'm not a fugitive, ready to face Nigerian authorities. And this is, of course, the Briton who was accused of being a part of the NPA or sponsoring the NBAD governance protest. We're talking about Andrew Wynne. Ajero's invitation due to ties with Britain, says police. Enugu State Governor Mba visits Mike Ejiaga after renaming Abakpa Road after the music legend. Just in case you're wondering who that is, a number of you have known the challenge on Instagram, on social media, that was started by the comedian Brain Jota I'm not going to try to sing it, but I know it ends with something in the line of go, 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 ngo. That is the man who sang the song, and he's being honored by the governor of the state. Even as Brainjotter is being criticized by the crypto community, but that's another conversation. PDP draws the line. No one is above this party as Wike faces questioning over anti-party activities. Finally, presidency debunks rumors of rifts between Tinubu and Shettima. I don't regret joining APC, bringing Buhari to power, says Amechi. Gumi wants bandits now embracing Boko Haram's ideology. At this point, I don't understand anymore. Fatal bulletproof charm testing. 19-year-old native doctor shoots clients dead in Edo. Wow, Osage, this is not good news. Electoral committee proposes 30 to 40% salary cuts for legislators and executive. Court remands end bad governance protesters in Kuje, Suleja prisons on charges of treason. I think we'll start the conversation with that. The court has remanded end bad governance protesters on charges of treason. There's reports of Andrew Wynne and a certain Lucky being accused of sponsoring the protest. NLC says, the Nigerian police says the reason they stormed Labour House is because of Andrew Wynne, that he, he has a library or a bookshop, whichever you so please, in Labour House, and that's where he's part of, those who have been sponsoring the end bad governance. I saw an exclusive interview where he said that he's not a fugitive. He was not aware that he was a fugitive. He wasn't aware that he was being looked for. But there is now a bounty on both their heads to the tune of 20 million by the police.
See, we have said this several times. Protest can never be treason. I don't know what the police think they are doing by going this route. They arraigning 10 people yesterday in court and charging them for treason. And don't forget, treason is
capital punishment.
Capital punishment, yeah, by death if you are convicted. And that people protested against bad governance. And for crying out loud, is there anybody in Nigeria today who does not know that this country is not being governed well? Anybody who is living a lie, thinking that he can browbeat people into believing that we are being governed well today is simply being mischievous. The truth of the matter is that there is no index of human development that has gone north since Bola Ahmed Tinubu became president on May 29, 2023. So, the bringing these people to court in the first place on charges of treason, I don't know where that is coming from. Look, if you are saying that some people committed arson or some people looted in the process of the protest, you can charge people...
And destruction of property.
You can charge people for arson. You can charge people for looting. But to say that those who participated, that end bad governance, is an attempt to overthrow the government of Bola Tinubu, it doesn't make sense. It is only the Nigerian police that can explain what they are trying to do. Now, coming down to this so-called Andrew Wynne or whatever, Olive, it beggars belief that a man who has a shop, a bookshop, rented cubicle in the Labour House, NLC headquarters in Abuja, a beaton, for crying out loud, has the capacity to orchestrate a plot that will involve the Nigerian army, that will involve security officials to overthrow a government. Well, and again, the police public elections officer said yesterday they have declared this man wanted, and of course a 10 million naira bounty was placed on his head, and the other guy who is in Nigeria. And this guy is saying, nobody contacted me. I am not a fugitive. I'm not running away. He is on vacation in his country. So, was any attempt made to contact him? What is the level of investigation and all that? And now they are linking it. They said, NLC president. Well, let them tell Nigerians what they know. The Joe Ajero that I know, who is the president of the Nigerian Labour Congress, is perhaps more patriotic than even some of these people who are now on the lunch table feasting on the sacrifices made by well-meaning Nigerians to get us to where we are today. So I don't know how many Nigerians believe what the police.
So is there a possibility, because I mean the reports are that, you know, these persons were picked up in different locations. It's not like they were all, you know, rounded up during the protests and, you know, and have now been arraigned, you know, but that they were picked up in different locations and have now, of course, you know, been charged, you know, with the same crimes, including the Britain. Is there a possibility, you know, would it make any sense, you know, if the police say that, you know, they've been carrying out the investigation and these persons were acting as agents, you know, maybe working with some, you know, other characters to destabilize or fund an uprising in Nigeria? Will that maybe add up?
Like I said earlier, let the police bring the evidence that they have. Let Nigerians judge who is saying the truth. You know, conspiracy to topple a government is not a child's play.
Of course not.
It's not something you sit down in your bedroom. And these guys said what the ab initio intended to achieve: end bad governance, to end corruption, to end poverty. That Nigerians are entitled to good governance. Nigerians are entitled to decent living. Nigerians are entitled to other things that will make you look like a human being. Look, we are being dehumanized. We are being dehumanized as a people. We are being treated as if we are non-human beings. And don't forget, the same government that is telling you to tighten your belt, to tell you everything, these guys are living large.
All right.
In the face of all that has gone wrong, the president is buying new yachts, he's buying new aircraft, he's buying new bees, he's living large every day.
All right. Good morning, Paul. Good morning, Paul. Can you hear us?
All right.
Good morning.
Like Paul is
all right.
Connected. All right. I mean, there's so many angles to look at this conversation from. Okay, well, we're unable to hear you. Can you maybe? We're having a bit of.
Hello?
Yes, please go ahead. We can hear you now.
Hello.
Yes, please go ahead, Paul.
Hello. I'm hearing you.
Yeah, please go ahead.
Yeah, okay. You see, I agree with the man in the studio. This our president, Bola Ahmed Tinubu, has beaten more than he can chew. If anybody should be charged for treason against the public, it should be the senators, the president, and the House of Reps members. They are the people pulling Nigeria backwards. A step forward, 10 steps backward. What is he planning for us? Buying presidential jet, buying yacht at his age with people's money. And you're attaching the farmers that own the money to cop. I don't exactly understand the type of presidency we have in these our African countries. Let them emulate Traore. Look at what he's doing in his own country. Caring for the people. And let me remind the Nigerian police that policemen and soldiers are meant to protect the public, not for the ruler, not for our leader. They are being paid with our tax money. They should protect us. Instead of trying to chastise Nigerians on a very peaceful movement, they will now create an avenue of trying to make it look funny that there are hoodlums. We at times call some of our members in this country hoodlums. Who created the hoodlums?
All right, Paul.
Who created it? It is appalling. The president should know that if he's not ready to rule the people according to the democratic order, he should step down. That's the simple truth about it all.
All right, Paul. Thank you very much.
It is happening. Thank you so much.
All right. Let's quickly, talk about the Nyesom Wike drama with the PDP. Him threatening to put fire in in the states of other governors who may support, Sim Fubara. I said it earlier, that every time we have a conversation with the PDP, representative or spokesperson here, 2 market days later, Nyesom Wike once again, does something new. And they've always found a reason to not take action. They've always found some reason why they have a different approach with the PDP. They don't necessarily anything wrong with what Nyesom Wike has done. But then a couple of days later, he does something new.
Well, that is, let me borrow a common phrase now. People in the US say it is Trump being Trump. So this is Wike being Wike. I don't expect anything less than a Wike who has become a rabble rouser, rousing the rabble every time. But again, the question is, why is the PDP unable to discipline Wike? And that goes to the heart of the problem we have as a people and the problem we have with the so-called democracy.
All right.
We don't have democracy. And we don't have Democrats. All these people who are masquerading, they are Democrats, they are this, they are that, they are power mongers. And the level of impunity in the country explains, because there are no consequences
All right.
for actions that people take.
All right. We'll come back to, talking about no consequences for actions that people take. Let's hear from Samuel. Good morning. Thank you for calling. Oh, sorry, we lost that call. All right, you said there are no consequences for actions.
For actions that people in government take. And again, because also people know that elections are not won by virtue of the vote cast by the people. So they can afford to do anything because they know they don't rely on your vote to remain in power. So Wike saying he's going to set fire, being bigger than the PDP, as it were, should not surprise anybody. They said it was Wike that funded PDP all through the years that after they lost,
The party was abandoned.
Power. But the question you need to ask, where did Wike get the money?
Good question. Hold on. Good morning, Samuel, calling from Benue.
Morning.
Morning.
So I want to comment.
Quickly, please.
Wike is not a member of PDP. Wike is just terrorizing the PDP in Rivers State. So some of us look at it that Wike should be pushed out of that place.
All right. All right. Thank you. And thank you for keeping it brief as well.
So the issue is that where did Wike and Nyesom Wike get all this money? Wike is not an entrepreneur, unless he's a power entrepreneur. I think he graduated from the law school in 1997 or 1998. I can't be precise on that. And by 1999, he was appointed a local government chairman, Obiapo. And since then, he's been in government, either being chief of staff to Rotimi Amechi, and then from there, seconded to Abuja as Minister of State Education, and then coming back to be governor for 8 years and going back now as minister. So he has been in government. Where did he get all this money that everybody is touting that he was the person who financed this thing? But, you know, I understand the game Wike is playing, and that is the value that Wike brings to the Bola Tinubu governance table. As long as Wike is there, the role he's playing in all this is to hold PDP down. Right. And as long as we have the judiciary that we have, I don't see how PDP can get rid of
Nyesom Wike. Well,
yeah.
We'll come back to that. Let's hear from
play a role.
Let's hear from Bethel Agu. Good morning. Thank you for calling. Please go ahead with your comment.
Yeah, good morning.
Good morning.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I want to contribute on this issue. Wike is not a member of PDP. And the problem PDP have is from their chairman, national chairman. It's because of corruption issue. Wike is using him to destroy PDP. I have not seen the reason why up to now PDP have not suspended Wike. All the whole things that he's doing, all the atrocity. And everybody knows that Nigerian judiciary has failed the nation. If the PDP if Wike carries forward to court, they'll keep on postponing the case. Before you know it, we enter 2027. Please, that's my contribution.
All right. Thank you very much for sharing that.
Is the PDP scared of, because everyone's saying, oh, you know, they should take action and suspend him. You know, it's not like anybody who's making these comments is a PDP member. You know, we are only just spectators, mostly. So everybody who's, you know, calling for it, is the PDP itself worried about what could possibly happen if they try to sanction, you know, Nyesom Wike? And have they also maybe...
Yeah, I just wanted to add to that there's a new report that is allegedly breaking news. This day newspaper reports that the PDP has called in Nyesom Wike. He's going to be maybe facing the disciplinary committee. So do you believe that anything will come out of this if it does happen?
I think on the other hand, it is Wike that will discipline PDP and not PDP disciplining Wike. It's as simple as that. Look, we'll come out of that. The disciplinary committee is chaired by Tommy Kimi.
Yes.
And Wike will end up disciplining PDP, and nothing will come out of it. You know, I doubt if PDP will come out of this Wike quagmire at all. It's either Wike destroys PDP, and that is what he is trying to do. Look, what got us to this sorry pass? Yeah. You could cut Wike some slack. The insistence of the northern flank of the PDP, headed by Atiku and Tambuwal, to contest the presidency in 2023, after Muhammadu Buhari had spent 8 years, another in power, and thereby violating the rotation principle, was what gave Wike this impetus to do what he's doing. On the face value, it would be, or it would seem, that Wike was acting on principles by saying, no, this presidency must come back
to the south.
Even after the southern governors had met twice in Asaba and in Lagos to reaffirm that the presidency must come to the south. So ab initio, on the face value, you could say, okay, that Wike was fighting on principle against the tendency of Atiku Abubakar to insist that he will, and in fact went and hijacked the ticket of the PDP. Yeah. But what is playing out right now has gone beyond Wike fighting against Atiku or fighting against Tambuwal. Wike is playing the script of the man who appointed him Minister of the Federal Capital Territory. And I don't see anything. The acting national chairman and the secretary are all Wike's people.
Yeah.
So I don't see how PDP can, in all honesty, discipline Wike. And of course, there are the courts that Wike can always use. The courts in Abuja, he will always go to court to get an injunction.
So they're standing on one leg for 2027. In fact, they may not even have a full leg to stand on at this point, the way it looks. Anyway, we have another call.
Yes, we do. Good morning. Thank you very much for calling.
Hello,
Chief Ariel.
Chief Ariel. Hello.
Yes, Chief. Please go ahead.
Okay. About Wike, you see, the problem of PDP started in 2015 with the internal crisis of PDP. You see, they were not talking with one voice, taking into consideration the policy of PDP, trying to shift the power to the south. And that is why today you see that the PDP members are equally not talking, because they wanted Atiku to be there. Notwithstanding, Wike is not God. Wike should know that there is a time for everything. Wike cannot contest for the governorship election in Rivers again. What Wike is actually doing is to now to create relevance. He wants to create relevance in Tinubu government because he cannot go back to Rivers again. The best thing for the PDP to do is to make sure that they remove Wike at all costs. It is rather unfortunate that our judiciary, in my own opinion, are corrupt. The corruption of the judiciary is equally contributing to what is happening in PDP. We knew what Bakachua told the members of House in the National Assembly, that his wife used a lot of people for them to be in the National Assembly. And that comes to tell you about the corruption we are talking about in the judiciary. If there is no corruption, we should be able to go. Have you ever seen a wife having two husbands and delivering from all the two husbands?
Chief Ariel, thank you very much.
It was Peter Obili who brought Wike up.
All right, thank you very much. We always have everyone to squeeze in their thoughts into a minute if possible. Maybe we'll come back to this, but let's quickly talk about the NNPC and the petrol scarcity. They of course, have said that they finally owned up to owing about 6 billion. They didn't even state a figure, but of course, they're talking about the debts that are being owed as the reason behind the petrol scarcity. We had Professor. Was it Elebari this morning, joined us this morning, and of course, he details his opinion concerning the petrol scarcity and of course, the whole petroleum sector. He says the NNPC should not be blamed, that we should instead blame the, whoever is the Minister of Petroleum and other, personalities who, it should be their responsibility to answer these questions.
Well, incidentally, the Minister of Petroleum is President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. He is the Minister of
So another thing that was mentioned, if the Senate didn't approve of that, the Senate didn't swear him in as Minister of Petroleum. So can we say that we currently don't have a Minister of Petroleum? We have a Minister of State for Petroleum, no doubt.
It is the impunity. It is the impunity that I talked about earlier. Of course, Muhammad Buhari did it for 8 years. Was the Minister of Petroleum. And nothing changed in NNPC, in the petroleum industry. All the activities remained as opaque as ever. So, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, who promised that he was going to continue from where Buhari stopped, also picked up that portfolio. Whether he was sworn in or whether he was screened by he's the ultimate power in the country. So he is the Minister of Petroleum. And the only reason why this APC president want to control the Petroleum Ministry is because that's the country's cash cow. They want to control the resources. without being accountable. So how can you differentiate between an NPC and the listen? They are all part and parcel of the whole sordid system that has made Nigeria almost unworkable. Look, the chicken has finally come home to roost, to borrow a cliche. An NPC has been telling us all manner of stories. In fact, don't forget also that about about a month ago, they declared a profit
of 3.3 trillion naira.
Of 3.3 trillion. How can you be owing $6 billion
and declaring profits of 3 trillion?
And declaring profit of 3 trillion. The truth of the matter is that they have run out of excuses.
All right. Hold on. Good morning, TK. Or PK, I beg your pardon. Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning.
Welcome. Go ahead.
Okay. My take about the PDP issue is that every time they call Wike, you say Wike as you see. When the people of PDP ran away after failing the election in 2015.
Seems we've been disconnected from Wike. Okay.
It was Wike that stood very firm to make sure that this party called PDP did not die.
Peke, we're struggling with your audio. Would have if you can please maybe call us back. Would like to hear your thoughts on this conversation. All right, you've talked about NNPC not having excuses anymore because they initially said, I mean, there are different things that have been shared regarding this. Our last guest said it's not the NNPC that we should be blaming. That is the Minister of, the policies, those who are the policy makers. In this case, the Minister of Petroleum. And like our guest said, he said the Senate didn't swear in any Minister of Petroleum. So we currently do not have a Minister of Petroleum. But I guess that's subject to debate.
No, we do. We have a Minister of Petroleum, and the Minister of Petroleum is President
Bola
Ahmed Tinubu. The truth of the matter is that Nigerians should better brace up for very, very tough times. Selling petrol at 600 and whatever is unsustainable. It is unsustainable. Let's not make any mistake about that. Of course, the government was denying that they were no longer paying subsidies, blah, 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 blah. But we have seen now, look, as long as we continue importing, the landing cost, and with the exchange rate as it is, when people say that the present predicament we find ourselves in this country today was caused by the twin policies of subsidy removal and floating of the exchange rate. In an economy that is import dependent, in an economy that does not produce anything, you floated your currency, crashed its value, that today $1 exchanges for
1,630 as at yesterday.
1,630 naira. There is no way you can import fuel. The landing cost is well over 1,000 naira. So where are we going to? And then when fuel begins to sell for 1,500, can we all realize the social impact that will have in the country? We are in for very, very tough times.
But here's the thing, right? If the government truly wanted or decides that it no longer can afford to pay subsidy, the truth is Nigerians should be ready to obviously have an increment in the price of petrol. So is this just a reality Nigerians will just have to accept? That petrol needs to sell for 1,200 naira, 1,500 naira, and that's it, if we're truly going to remove subsidy? Or are we deceiving ourselves as Nigerians by complaining that the petrol is too expensive while expecting a subsidy to be removed.
Also, I think the issue is very straightforward. To say that Nigerians should realistically expect to pay more for fuel perhaps is a very logical thing to say. But who are these people who are going to pay this in an economy where the minimum wage is still 30,000?
Yeah.
70,000 that was agreed upon, I'm not too sure that even the federal government has started paying it. And even if the federal government agrees to start paying that, I can assure you,
still inadequate.
Over 80% of the states can't afford to pay. And even if all of them pay, it's still inadequate. Also, see, it does not make sense. We said it. There is no government on earth that does not subsidize one way or the other. Energy security is a national security issue. You don't throw the people into the wild and say, IMF, World Bank said this. The Bretton Woods institutions go and look for where they have brought all these, their policies. They don't work. America subsidizes all manner of things, including food. In Germany, energy subsidy is real.
Yep.
So you can't wake up in the morning and say, look, that the people are going to buy petrol at 1,500 or at 2,000. Who are these people who are going to buy it? And have you considered the ripple effect of that on the economy as a whole? So the companies are moving out of this country, folding and moving out of this country because the cost of doing business in Nigeria is simply unbearable. You can't produce anything here. Instead, people will go to China and import the same thing that we are trying to produce here and sell cheaper because it is cheaper to import than the price at which we are going to produce it in Nigeria. So, how can we make progress this way? President Tinubu's economic policies have failed.
Yeah.
And that is putting it mildly. Whether they want to accept it or not, whether they want to charge anybody who is protesting against bad governance with treason,
yeah,
they will have to expand Nigerian prisons because many more people.
Everyone. All right.
Those of us who come on television or write in our columns, we are also endangered species because we are also people that are caught in treason without knowing it. Because if all it takes to be charged with treason is being critical, criticizing the government and saying, no, we should have it this way, we are in for a very, very tough time.
All right. Ikechukwu Amechi, thank you very much for joining us, as always. We always love your perspectives. You know, it sounds very, very gloomy if we just take a look at, you know, all the stories that we shared this morning. But time will tell how things turn out. Thank you very much once again for stopping by.
Also, the pleasure is always mine. Olive, you're not wearing olive.
I'll do that tomorrow. I'll think about it tomorrow.
All right. Stay with us. Conversations continue this morning. Let's, of course, quickly share with you what Nigerians are saying across the country. That comes up right next.
At least 10 Nigerians are facing the likelihood of a death sentence, having been charged for treason. Recall that there was a call for peaceful protests from the 1st to the 10th of August, and Nigerians took to the streets demanding a decent quality of life, demanding better governance and accountability from their leaders. Bear in mind that prior to this protest, there had been a public outcry against the economic hardship experienced by Nigerians, and as such, the End Bad Governance protest was also dubbed the Hunger Protest. The protest went violent in some parts of the country, particularly the north, and lives were lost, even though the numbers of deaths have been disputed. Law enforcement agents have been accused of firing live rounds into the crowds of protesters. There were reports of Russian flags being flown, and the federal government has accused a British national, Andrew Wynne, as well as Lucky Obiang, of plotting to overthrow a democratically elected government. These two men have been accused of fleeing the country, and they now both have a 20 million naira bounty on their heads placed by the Nigerian police. Andrew Wynne says he's not running. He says he's ready to speak with the authorities, but he fears for his safety. He's willing to meet with the authorities in London, he says. His wife believes her husband is falsely accused because one Olumide Inokmoyo is owing him and not ready to pay him, even though the case is in court. Now, this is according to an interview that was granted to Channels TV. Now, let's come back to the protesters. They have been charged with terrorism and destruction of property. And terrorism is a crime that's punishable by death. They are to be remanded in Kuje prison till September 11th, when their bail application will be heard. There's been public outcry against the case, and especially the charges. Amnesty International has called the trial a sham, and as expected, there have been criticism on X. So let's take the tweets. The first tweet is from Kalu Aja, who says, Boko Haram rehabilitation, peaceful protesters, treason. I mean, you see the contrast there. Our favorite online doctor says, a country that rehabilitates terrorists who kidnap, rape, and kill and murder its citizens, but then charges peaceful protesters with treason for demanding better governance, is a country that is on a fast lane to swift self-destruction. Read the above slowly in case you miss it. And then Beka Obiareri is the next tweet we're taking, and he says, you charge peaceful protesters for treason, but grant amnesty to bandits, Boko Haram terrorists, and murderers, political bandits. Sir Dixon also tweets about this, says, what exactly is the ICC doing? Trying protesters for treason is grossly crime against humanity. This is a dictatorship. Ogunmosi says, protesters guilty of treason. Boko Haram terrorists needs rehabilitation. Fuel subsidy removed, fuel is expensive and unavailable. Fuel subsidy returned, fuel is expensive and unavailable. If you complain, they will promise you rice. This just details the current reality of Nigerians and the challenges that it is, that we are facing. The lawlessness of this regime has so far, okay, let's take from Ejiro Isibone, who says, the lawlessness of this regime has been so clear for a while. The same energy that they used to abduct these Binance officials is the same energy they are using to charge protesters for reason. On another day, we'll talk about Binance and what they're currently experiencing. But I'll wrap it up with this tweet by Nefertiti, who says, 1, fuel scarcity. 2, high cost of fuel. 3, Naira is the gutter. 4, crazy house rent. Oh, I can relate to that one. 5, modest inflation. 6, terrorists on TikTok. 7, a bloated government. 8, a wasteful government. 9, kidnappers on rampage. And 10, protesters slammed with treason. Nigerians are in a maximum prison. Now, according to Oxford Dictionary, treason is a crime of betraying one's country, particularly by attempting to kill or overthrow the sovereign or government. Betraying one's country can then take several forms. It's one thing to attempt to illegally unseat a government in office. It's also another thing to plunder the nation's commonwealth whilst the masses can barely make ends meet. Thank you very much for joining us. We'll be, of course, bringing you more tweets from what Nigerians are saying. But we'll have a conversation about this, and I'd like to, at this point, bring in Osalge into the conversation regarding, this tweets and how Nigerians have reacted to the, the terrorism charges that have been leveled against these Nigerians.
I mean, everyone has, a fair point that they've made, mostly pointing out the fact that the Nigerian government seems to be focusing on the wrong things. But I have said it before that it almost is normal in certain countries, Nigeria including, that security agencies feel like they're set up not to protect lives and property, but to protect those in power. And so they don't even need to be told by those in power what to do. They, just automatically go against anybody that they seem or they assume might be threatening those in power. And that's the mentality that they have. And it seems like that's currently what we have in Nigeria. So every time when people talk about, and this is not saying that Mr. President may not be involved, or may not have a clear idea of what's going on with arresting these protesters and all of that, but every time that we hear that President Tinubu has arrested protesters, or he may not even be, aware of these names that have been called or anything like that. The security agencies just believe that their role is to go against anybody who seems to threaten those in power.
And it's also important to talk about how, the security agencies have also been criticized with how they handle the protests. If you look at Abuja, there was also disparity as to the reports we had regarding how the protests turned violent in Abuja. Whilst, citizens said that it was police that attacked first, police said citizens attacked first. There have been accusations and allegations of police firing live rounds. And I'm hoping that that will be investigated as well, because that in some measure is betraying the trust that the people have placed in your hands as law enforcement agencies to ensure their safety and their security.
I agree. And of course, what would we say is a bigger danger to the Nigerian public and Nigerian people? Is it, those who are protesting to seek a better Nigeria, or is it those taking pictures in the forest with money and AK-47 rifles after, kidnapping, innocent Nigerians? Anyway. We need to set our priorities straight.
We'll be back again tomorrow with some more news. I am Olive Emodi.
And I am Hajia Dada Yar'adua. See you tomorrow.